Perfect. All right, we are now back into open session at 7:14 PM. 8A, or 8 action items. A, the first reading of recommended board policies and recommendations. Ms. Peterson, do you have anything, any comments or?
Not really. I mean, I don't know if everybody got them or just Chris and I got them, but they all had an explanation of what the changes were, so it all seemed pretty straightforward. And the only question I had, and I am not able to pull them all up right here, but there was one, like, so what we got were at least the current policy, what the recommendation, or what the new policy was going to be, and then what we were going to do, what was recommended, and there was one that was different. I don't know if you know offhand, it was the, I thought it was the one about attendance and truancy, but I can't pull them up now on this computer, so I can't remember, but there's just one, I just didn't know why there was a difference between what we were gonna do versus what the policy would otherwise have been according to the state changes. And I'm sorry, I just can't. I was looking at the same computer before and I can't pull it up. There was just, so I don't know, Dr. Lind, if you remember offhand what that was. If you can pull it up.
Yeah, I can look.
Wasn't anything earth shattering.
No.
I just was curious why there was a difference, but otherwise everything was pretty.
So
to
there
me at least.
changes for what counts as an excused absence on the state level?
It was. I did my policy, I wrote these a while ago.
Yeah, I know, that's the, it was a month ago.
I can't, it was something, it was like, there was a bunch of itemized. And it might have been what was excused or what would have to be taken into account. And we just didn't have as many as what the state was recommending.
So we had fewer than press recommended.
Yes. And it may be.
It's not opening.
We can put a pin in that one and come back to it next month if desired.
That's a first reading anyway.
No, it is.
Yeah, it's his first.
So it's listed as first.
So, yeah, we can come back to it.
The only thing is I will not be at the next meeting. I don't know if you guys remember that, but I'm gonna be out of, so if it has to go to that, I cannot be here.
I'll make note of that. I'll get back.
Or maybe
I'll
you
get back
could
to you.
say something to Chris about it.
Oh, yeah, I think, I swear there was a meeting he wasn't gonna.
That's this one.
Oh, okay, that,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, there we go.
Okay, so we'll take a better look at that attendance and truancy 770. And other than that, any other comments or
There was
questions?
nothing that I thought was.
Most of it, yeah, there's a AI was added to some of the language for the electronic issue, and then there's a lot of it was just the references, legal references.
Alrighty. Sounds good. 8B, approval of the 2026-2027 fiscal year draft budget for public posting. Ms. Kraft. Awesome.
I'm gonna pull up, if you wanna start talking, you
Sure.
I'm gonna pull up Ms. Kraft's presentation. Just a second. About that.
So this presentation is it's pretty similar to what you've seen before. Kicks off with the budget calendar, which is the same every year. The school districts are required to submit a budget to the state by September 30th. Our public hearing is set for August 24th, which is why for today, the request from the board for approval for posting this tentative budget this week gives us enough time for the budget to be posted to the public for 30 days before the public hearing on the 24th. We jump down to the second page, the next page. This is a lot of this document is just for educational purposes. So again, we do fund accounting, and this is just a way for our auditor and school districts to track expenditures and revenues. We go down one more. Yep. We have the 9 funds. If we go to the next slide, every year the budget is driven by a set of goals. We're always looking to improve programs and curriculum, keep class sizes either small or the same essentially. One thing that we added this year is supporting learning through a safe, high-performing facility. So we've been talking over the past couple of years and working with our architect to create facilities plans to make sure that our buildings are safe and maintained. And we're always looking for ways to improve the buildings. And also we want to make sure that all of our staff is getting the appropriate professional development opportunities that they need to be effective in their job. Expenditure and revenue highlights. So in every budget, a budget is kind of just a snapshot at a given time. We don't necessarily know everything. We do know by the time we're creating the budget, what the salaries are going to be. Typically, we know what the benefits are going to be because our open enrollment is in May, June, but this year, the ask was to move open enrollment to August. So this budget is making a little bit more of an assumption on what the benefits are going to be because of open enrollment in early August. But just like the last couple of years, we'll have an amended budget mid-year where we'll do a deeper dive into what the benefit elections were. Over the past month, though, some staff members have been moving off of our budgets or off of our benefits completely, moving over to their spouses. So when I've gotten that information, I baked that into this budget. Things that we are not always in or that are unknown costs are substitutes from year to year. We never can guarantee the exact number of substitute costs or staff development requests. Special ed students, if we send a student in the special ed program out of the district, that can cost anywhere between $75,000 to $85,000 per student, and sometimes that happens mid-year, and we wouldn't know about that while we're creating the budget, which again would be baked into the amended budget later in the year. We jumped down. So, yep, sorry, revenue highlights there. So again, our revenues are coming from three sources: federal, state, and local. The bulk of our revenue comes from property taxes. We know when we're creating the budget what our property tax revenue is going to be. We know the bulk of the federal revenue and the state revenue as well. Some unknown revenues would be unknown donations or grants that just pop up, last minute throughout the year, which has happened a couple of times over the past few years. We jump to the next slide. Out of the 9 funds, the state looks at 4 operating funds, 10, 20, 40, and 70, to determine if the budget is balanced. So this slide is simply just showing what our actual revenue was last year for those funds and what our anticipated revenue is. This next slide, I think, is just a legal requirement we're required to post. So it's just showing a summary of the fiscal year 27 revenues and expenses and what the surplus and deficit will be for each of those funds. 60 capital projects, that looks a little bit scary, but all that is saying, there's a fund balance there. All it's saying is we're getting some revenue into that fund, but we're spending more. We're spending down the fund balance on some of the bigger projects that we want to work on in a given year, and we'll go into those in a little bit. The budget is balanced. So again, we're looking at funds 10, 20, 40, and 70. Or the state is, to determine if the budget is balanced, and it is. It has a surplus of $174,000. The bulk of that is in working cash, which is essentially like a rainy day fund. Can't spend money out of that fund. We can abate it down the road if ever the school was in a crisis and we needed to move that money to a different fund. So really, that surplus is just the difference that you see for the education fund, the operation and maintenance fund, and the transportation fund. It's pretty close, but still positive that the budget is balanced. The next few slides just compare revenues and expenditures in those operating funds. Just to give an idea of, again, what our revenue sources are. As we know, our property taxes are contributing the bulk of our revenue. Next up, our state, state funding through whether it's evidence-based funding or mandated categoricals for special education or transportation. We do have revenue coming from other local sources. That 1.6 million is fees, building rentals, interest that we get from our bank. And we get a little bit of money from the federal government. The bulk of our expenditures is salaries and benefits. And then in the education fund, next up are purchase services. So that's special education tuition, professional development, things like that. Expenditure highlights for the education fund. So this is just comparing the actual expenditures to the budgeted amount. In every case here, the budgeted amount is higher. The information column is just giving a little bit of a highlight of where those. We get $50,000 typically every year from a state grant and no federal funding whatsoever. Budgeted expenditures, again, it's salaries and benefits. And then bulk of expenditures also goes towards supplies. The supplies are things like electricity and gas at the buildings, but also custodial supplies, maintenance supplies. And then purchase services is groups like our HVAC company coming in and doing repairs, or any O&M operation and maintenance vendor coming in and doing repairs.
So quick question on that. So the salaries for the O&M fund,
Mhm.
those salaries aren't in the ed fund because these people don't have direct student contact, or is that,
It's a good question.
these are regular employees?
They are,
Okay.
yes, they are. So we have 11 custodians essentially, and so for whatever reason, anything that is building and grounds related is broken into into a separate fund. I'm assuming it's just for tracking and auditing purposes.
Okay.
Again, just a comparison between our actual expenditures and budgeted amounts for the upcoming year. Under capitalized equipment. So that is something that is costing the district more than $5,000. Just have a couple of hopeful larger products that we're looking to implement: a heating pump and potentially a digital sign at the middle school if electricity can run out there. We're not entirely sure yet. We have to make a payment to CEDAL under other objects, and then just an explanation of where the money is going under these other objects.
And the CEDAL payment is separate from our tuition payment too then?
Correct, yeah, it's specific to, we're paying CEDAL an O&M or an operations and maintenance fee, if you will, and that is, it's the $40,000.
Thank you.
Transportation fund, again, this is even a little bit different with revenue. Property taxes is not the main source of income, it's actually state revenue. There's no federal funding at all under transportation, and the salary and benefits makes up a good chunk of the pie, but also purchase services. So purchase services are things like outsourced transportation, bus driver physicals, drug tests that we have to do, PD. The lease is a huge part. So our bus lease is just under $600,000 a year for 20 buses. We jump to the next slide. And again, just a comparison between the fiscal 26 actual expenditures and 27 budgeted amounts. I'm assuming we're hopefully hiring 3 new drivers, which was approved in the last board meeting. We're just waiting on movement on one of the drivers still, but we've definitely gotten the 2. We jump down to the next slide. Working cash fund, as I mentioned earlier, is kind of a rainy day fund. We cannot spend money out of this fund at the end of the next or the current fiscal year. The anticipated revenue is just over $66,000 that will be added to the working cash fund. Remaining funds, so out of those 9 funds that we saw at the beginning of the presentation that are outside of the operating funds, these are the remaining funds. We have debt services, IMRF, Social Security, which is a retirement fund specific to the PSRP, which is the parapro and custodian union and office staff. Tort, which is specific to workers' comp. Life safety, which is specific to the building, specific to fire, actually, fire safety at the building, and then capital projects, which pays for large scale projects in the building. The summary program initiatives captured in this budget, so we're always looking to attract and retain high quality staff. We are looking to purchase a new English language arts and health curriculum at the middle school. We're hopefully replacing the elementary school East Gym 4, as well as replacing an HVAC unit, whichever one is determined most in need. So I know that our director of buildings and grounds was looking to replace 2. That would be coming out of the capital projects fund, and each HVAC unit replacement is considerable, and cost, and there's likely not enough in Fund 60 to replace both, so we'll be looking to see which one is most in need. And that is it. So any questions? I know that's a fun topic to get through. Once put 2 children to sleep explaining this, so
Why did you highlight cash on hand days in your email? Was that just to let us know where we stand with other schools? So that's,
Just another indication
that we're healthy.
of our health, of the health of our budget. So days cash on hand, we won't know that from last year's budget. That's always a year in arrears because it's on our annual financial report that our auditors put together. So we'll know where we were last year, but that's something to track over time to see where we're at. Because a lot of these are just numbers, and until you have some context, or is that good? Is it bad? Is it a lot? That the days cash on hand helps us compare to other school districts in our area.
But you're not more healthy if you have 400 days as opposed to 350 or something like that.
Oh, yeah, the
Once
more
you're-
days you have, the better.
I mean, once you're over 180, you're pretty solid, right? You start to worry less and less about it.
Yes, yeah,
So you were just basically,
Saying
that's another thing to say, hey, we're doing really well.
that's another point. Yep, so we have, I think I said 240 days cash on hand. Was our last update, and that would have been the FY 25 audit. So at that point, we had 240 days cash on hand, which is great, and we've been hovering right above that 180 to 240, depending on when dollars come in, like tax. We get tax receipts weekly now, or I don't know how often they pay. The county pays us when you pay your property taxes, then they hold it for a little bit. Every once in a while, we get a check. So if that check comes on June 26th, it's cash on hand that's gonna be counted in that number. If it comes on July 5th, it's not gonna be counted in that number. It would be in the next year, so there's a little bit of a dip, or let's say we pay a bill, that's actually, that cash on hand is cash at that one specific point in time. And we track it also throughout the year. Carly and I look at where we're at with the bank, at what our low balance is throughout the year as well. But that's an audited number that's comparable to other districts. So for example, Antioch was over 400 days cash on hand. Antioch Elementary, that's a pretty healthy fund balance. Now, I don't know if that plans for that. I don't know if they're gonna do a building project with some of that money. Don't know what their plans are. The other districts, Woodland,
Almost 88. Right?
that was Grays Lake Elementary. They're in a world of hurt financially. And they know. We know it. It's no shocker. It's just,
You sent that to us just as an indication.
it's just an indication. I mean, at one point, we were at 18 days cash on hand. And that was because we had TAWs to get to that high. I mean, it was. When you're starting the year. With 18 days cash ahead, that's troublesome for payroll because you have a 30-day outlook for most of your payments and the payroll and all of that. That's not a fun place to be. That's why 180 days cash on hand is you're considered healthy. Yeah, on that indicator, there's multiple other complicated indicators, but that's a pretty,
That was
that's a
where my
pretty
question
easy
was
one to
leading.
look. I picked that one because it's the easy one to look at. It's something that people understand and you can compare to other districts. Apples to apples.
But I mean, if you're asking for a referendum and you got 500 days cash on hand, there's gonna be a lot of pushback for that.
I would,
Yeah,
if I were a taxpayer, I'd say, what are you doing with the money you already have?
okay,
Unless you have a building project you're saving up for it, like Grass Lake at one point had 600 or 700 days cash on hand. But they're such a small district that they were saving up to do their new addition and not go up for referendum. It's a great